All right, everybody. So we are back. I had to record from last night's. I had an in-person meetup with several people, and there was no audio. I recorded it, but it didn't come out very well because, the audio was missing. So I'm going to recreate it here in a little studio in my office of mine, and we're going to talk about what the market updates are, what's going on in Oklahoma County, and we're going to do a case study of a property that I bought a couple of years ago, and we're going to go through the numbers and some other things. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try. I think I can do this. Look at that. And all I got to do is figure out how to share it. Probably can't do it yet. There we go. So I'm going to share this right here. There we go. All right. So this is my company, and so for educational purposes, find out if you got any financial or, legal, professional advice. Probably don't want to take it from me. But anyway, so here's something about me. If you didn't know, I'm a real estate investor and I'm a real estate agent. I work for actually Remax. Oops, went too far. And here we go. I got a master's degree and from Oakland University. And after I got out of the army, I actually went to Central, got my bachelor's degree. And quite frankly, that was probably the worst 4.5 years of my life. I did not enjoy it one bit. I did not like it. And then I joined the state police. And for 21 years, I was there. And, I was in Southeast Michigan my entire career. And during that time, I did things like an Ironman, and, I used to do some crazy stuff, swam from Alcatraz. And then I decided I got tired of the W-2, and I started buying and investing in 2018. And then I left shortly thereafter. So here's some information on Oakland County. Now, as we can see, we got new listings that were coming in. This just shows us trends. And we're not necessarily trying to do anything not as an investor or anything else, but it shows where real estate is going. How are people moving? Because right now, even this month, it just feels a little bit different right here towards the end of April. But if you look at the new listings, in March 26, we had 2,200, 2,400 in April. But last year at this time, we had 2,500. Not too much, but if you look at pending sales, they were clearly up more than they were by the end of the year. In April of last year, closed sales were quite a considerable. Those different, much larger. Days on market, a little shorter. Average price sales, a little dipping down from what they were last year, and a supply of inventory. That doesn't mean that people aren't. That just gives you numbers. And I always thought, that means whether or not people want to sell or not. Some people are just sitting there. I don't know. So take it for what it is. You can bring all kinds of excuses to the reason why these numbers are, but they do show you this is what's moving and what's not. In Macomb County, from last year to this year, last year we're at 1,600. This year we're at 1,500. A little bit of difference, not much. Pending sales looks pretty close from last year to this year, right? Closed sales, a lot more than this year. It seems like closed sales are dipping down than they are in Macomb County. You got to remember, there's a big difference between Macomb County and Oakland County. Oakland County used to be the fourth richest in all of the United States. I don't know where we're at now. I don't keep track. But days on market are much more. They're getting bigger over there in Macomb. And in last year, they're shorter. Average sale price kind of raising up from last year. And supply of inventory, obviously more houses are sitting on the market than were last year. So take those numbers for what they are, see what's moving, what's not. And we should be having some foreclosure numbers coming up when we get that access. I'll probably bring that up next month to see what we have. That'll be an interesting number to compare to. So this is a house that I bought back in December 2022. This is basically some of your real estate investment case studies, as you can see. I started putting on, this was a foreclosure, and I actually closed on December 2022, and I got a hard money lender. And that hard money lender was the biggest pain in my ass ever. It was just a big, very tough for me to go back to that again. They were not quick. Put the purchase agreement in September, and we didn't close till mid-December. It was such a debacle. So it had already gone through auction. The auction was 186. I had offered the current homeowners 210. So they were operating with a redemption period, but we'd already gone through October, November, and 2.5 months of the redemption period. It was a 3-bed, 1.5 bath, 1,200 square foot. The rehab costs were about $52,000. I finished it out, got it rented in May 20th of 2023. So before, there was stuff stacked up everywhere. This is so interesting. I found so much stuff there. So in this room to your bottom left was, she had all of her real estate stuff in here and clothes. She used to like make dresses and so on and so forth. And I call it an archaeological dig, because I said when I got down to the bottom, I found this box, and this box is down there, and I opened up, like, here were these Jordache jeans, like with the tag still in from the 80s in there. And I thought that was so cool, and I tried selling them. I still haven't had much luck selling them, but they're original Jordache jeans. And they would have, this couple had a lot of stuff. Well, they would buy things, and they were still in boxes, and I'd bring home, my car full of stuff as I was cleaning out the house. I was giving it to my son, and he actually sold it on the porch for Christmas. And I said, well, just get it off my porch, put it on Facebook Marketplace. You're in charge. You can keep the money. So I dug through all this, took out all the appliances, cleaned the place up. Foreclosures is kind of I'm not sure the word. When I'm talking about the relationship of the buyers between you buying them, it was very, very, it's very emotional, and it's very, they've been in this house since 1972. And as you can see, those cabinets and everything had been there since 1972. And, they just kept stacking stuff in. So they were quarantined all the way down to this one corner of the house, because the rest, and the kitchen, it was right off of this kitchen up here, off to your upper left. So that linoleum was from 1972. Appliances weren't, but everything else was. But it's pretty cool. And then this is what it looks like when we got it done with it. Clearly a different kitchen, same kind of layout. Bathroom was much better. The bathroom, there was so much leaking going on. Everything was just kind of wore out after all those years. But everything got cleaned out, and we got it rented. And my biggest obstacles during this whole thing was the hard money lenders. It was the biggest problem. But these hard money lender, at the time, there was the bank, and why am I having a brain cramp? Silicon Valley Bank, but it was out in Silicon Valley. If you remember, back in 2022, failed. And I found out the reason why this hard money lender was taking so long. They said, well, we used to have 270 employees, and now we're down to 30, and we're trying to take care of all these files. Well, that wasn't very good, but still, the way they did it about me, way they did me with getting money around and saying you don't need any money down. Next thing you know, I'm having to bring in $50,000 so they could hold on to it so I can do rehab costs. I'm like, it was ridiculous. I would have went with somebody else if I knew. Plus, it was 3 or 4 months. That took forever. And the contractors, at the time, it was tough to get a contractor. It was like our electrician that we finally got to go there was the guy who worked at Detroit Diesel, could only come in on the weekends, because that's the only electrician we could find that would come in and work. That wasn't already put with big projects. So that was some of the biggest obstacles that we had. But of course, persistence always beats resistance. Here's some of the appraised value right off the bat of this place was $345,000. Purchase price was $210,000. So we automatically got equity of $135,000. That's without doing anything. But we put a rehab of $52,000 into it. Closing costs were about $10,000 with everything to get the loan closed out. So our closing costs were $62,000, which leave us $73,000 of net equity. Cash out of pocket for me was $22,000 to gain $73,000. I started renting it at $2,500 a month. It's increased over the couple of years, not by much. And so we have a cash flow per month of 625. So our cash on cash return is 25,000. So it was a pretty good investment. I'm going to keep it for a while. I got a nice renters in there, and it was obviously a good investment. At the same time, I was working on another house that we ended up having to sell, but I'll put that up on the next one. So during last night's ordeal, and this is something that you can also discuss too, is if you could name your 3 financial challenges that you're going through right now, what are your 3 financial challenges? And write those down. I mean, they got to come right off the top of your head. They may be your mortgage, they may be this, they may be travel, sports, something right there. And think of that. And then how do you envision your lifestyle transforming once these issues are resolved? So if you could do that, like for me, when I did it, for me, one of my biggest thing was getting rid of my mortgage. Once I paid off my mortgage, I felt that was such a huge weight off my shoulders back in 2019. I got rid of my mortgage. I wasn't paying that bill anymore. And I owned the house except for taxes every year, which means the government could still take my house, which is bizarre to me. But, I didn't have to worry about that anymore. Then shortly thereafter, I got rid of my car payment. So I had no car payments. I still don't today. And I don't have a mortgage payment. And that is a huge relief. And I don't stress about where's my next paycheck coming from in regards to that. Yes, I still make money. Yes, I'm still here doing things. And I'm always need to use money and stuff. Don't think I'm just completely free, but those mandated things are what kind of gets you. And so we look at this and say, how would you envision it? How can real estate help you transform your life by doing this? Either you're going to be a private money lender, which you invest, or are you going to try to invest in real estate yourself and actually try to buy property? And there was a conversation about that. Like, what are you going to do? How would you do that? What would it look like from you now? Some of them, people were saying, well, I'm not going to leave I can't leave my W-2 job. And some like it and some were not in a position to do so. But their whole thing is trying to actually start off on doing that. So by actually, let me click out of these, by actually using real estate as a vehicle to get financially free and start living your life, which you gain your time back, and being able to do these little things that are, in your life, such as, going to be able to, well, maybe you can't see all your kids' sports or recitals, or maybe you can't take that short little getaway because you're too busy, with having to do overtime. Well, I had to do a lot of overtime as a police officer. I was working weekends. I was working holidays. I wasn't enjoying that. Staring out at a windshield, that wasn't fun at all. I got tired of that. So some of these things that you think that, you're proud to get your job, but now it's kind of like the grind. This is something else. Something else becomes very, very, very burdensome on your family and on your health. And so we talked about that. And if you're interested in actually trying to transform your life and you don't know how to get there, then you need to reach out to me and we can start working on, getting you to be financially free, much like I did. And I've helped other people do it as well. This is real. I feel real strongly about this. I'm real passionate about whether I'm going to sell your house and trying to make you money, or we try to start investing into something to make you money so you can get your time back. It isn't about the money. It's about how do you want to live your life, and you want to get your life back. So tune in every week. I'm going to have an episode every week. And if you're interested, just hit me up. Have a great day, everyone.